The laugh that echoed across the stars. The great council hall floated above a blue gas giant, its golden walls shining in the light of 3 nearby stars. Every major species in the galaxy had a seat here. They came to vote, to argue, to shape the future. And today, for the first time in history, a human ambassador sat among them. Ambassador Elena Vasquez wore a black suit with a silver pin of Earth on her chest. She looked calm, but her sharp eyes missed nothing. Around her, dozens of alien leaders whispered and stared. Some looked curious, some looked angry, most looked amused. Then came the voice that silenced the room. "I still do not understand," said Councillor Deaver of the Athari Republic. He stood tall, with 4 silver horns on his head and golden armor that reflected the chamber lights. "Why do we let these emotional apes sit with us?" Gasps and low murmurs filled the air. Elena did not move. She simply looked at him, waiting. Deaver laughed, loudly, coldly. "They cry over their dead. They rescue animals from war zones. They waste time with kindness. Kindness?" He shouted, shaking his head. "Is this a warrior species or a group of caretakers?" Some of the council members chuckled. A few nodded. "Humanity does not belong here," Deaver said, pointing directly at Elena. "They are not builders, not warriors, not thinkers. They are survivors, yes, but survival is not strength, it is luck." Elena remained still. "They joined our galaxy late," Deaver continued. "They bring nothing special, no technology we haven't already seen, no wisdom we haven't already heard. What do they offer except loud music, fast ships, and strange food?" Now the laughter spread wider. Then, finally, Elena stood. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't respond to the insults. Instead, she walked calmly to the center of the chamber and looked at the gathered leaders. "My people asked me to speak softly," she said, "to be patient, to earn your trust with time." The room quieted. "But when you mock us, remember this." She turned to Deaver. "Earth has heard worse laughter before. It always ends the same way." Deaver raised an eyebrow. "Is that a threat?" "No," Elena said. "It's history." At that moment, a small red light blinked on her wrist. She didn't even look at it. Far above the gas giant, in a hidden orbit, 3 Terran stealth ships activated. They did not fire. They simply began recording everything. Every insult, every laugh, every face. Back on Earth, millions watched the live feed in silence. Elena tapped her wrist once. Her aide, sitting quietly behind her, opened a private Terran channel. One word was sent. Begin. Suddenly, the council's live stream feed glitched. Every viewer saw static. Then a message appeared on screens across every star system. "We heard your laugh. Now hear our silence." And then, total blackout. All signals from Earth went silent. Galactic news stations froze. Terran ambassadors stopped responding. Human trade. Ships vanished from tracking grids. Earth was ... gone. Deaver blinked in confusion. "What is this trick?" No one answered. In the silence that followed, one counselor whispered, "What did you do, Deaver?" Elena sat back down. She crossed her legs, looked at Devor, and smiled just a little. It was the kind of smile that didn't promise peace, that promised something else, something unforgettable. Asterisk, no words, just action. The next day, the galaxy felt different. All communication with Earth had stopped. No signals, no trade updates, no news broadcasts. Even the Terran colonies spread across dozens of systems had gone dark. At first, many thought it was a glitch. Then they realized it wasn't. Counselor Deaver sat in his private chamber, watching a glowing map of the galaxy. One by one, the human systems blinked offline. Ships vanished. Beacons turned red. Still nothing from Earth? He asked his assistant, a small, nervous alien with twitching antennae. Nothing, sir. Their systems are shut down. Not destroyed, just gone. Ever narrowed his eyes. They're playing a game. He stood and activated a galactic newsfeed dot. The headline read, Earth has gone silent. What does IT mean? In the council hall, nervous voices filled the air. Some leaders whispered about Earth's silence. Others said humanity had left in fear. But a few remembered the look on Elena's face. And they were afraid. That same day, something strange happened in the Authari system. It started with trade. Hub 9-1 of the largest Authari stations, orbiting a rich mining moon. The station went completely dark. Thousands of ships lost contact. Traffic control shut down. The station's power failed without warning. And then, silence. No explosion. No distress signal. Just gone. Deaver rushed to the war room. Where is the fleet I sent there? His generals looked pale. He lost contact with them too. You lost contact with an entire fleet? They just disappeared. Deaver slammed his fist on the table. Send more. Find out who's behind this. Hours later, more ships were dispatched. They never returned. At first, Deaver believed it was pirates. Or a rogue species. But deep inside, he began to feel something strange. Regret. Back in the council hall. Ambassador Elena Vasquez did not return. Her seat was empty. But something appeared in its place. A small silver cube. No one knew who placed it there. No one saw it arrive. When the council's techs activated the cube, it projected a simple video. The first half showed Counselor VO laughing at the humans. The second half showed the empty orbit where the trade station used to be. Then, a sentence appeared in glowing Terran script. This is not war. This is silence with purpose. Panic spread quickly. Some members began calling for emergency talks with Earth. Others demanded Deaver apologize. But Deaver refused. We cannot bow to fear. They are bluffing. That same night, every screen on Deaver's Homeworld lit up. No. One knew how. They all displayed the same message. You laughed. Now listen. And then one of Deaver's moons disappeared. Not destroyed. Not shattered. Gone. As if it had been quietly erased from the sky. No fire. No sound. Just missing. The Athari people screamed into the night. Children cried. Scientists ran scans. Nothing made sense. And still, no message from Earth. Deaver fell to his knees, staring at the black spot in the sky where the moon used to be. There were no Terran fleets. No soldiers. No invasion. Just action. And silence. Asterisk. The Black Fleet appears. The skies above Othar Prime had always been peaceful. Bright stars. Slow-moving patrol ships. Shimmering rings of satellites. But tonight, something had changed. Every satellite went dark at once, one by one, like candles being blown out. No explosions. No alerts. Just gone. The Athari defense forces scrambled. Radar stations began scanning. Warships powered up their shields. Commander Relvac, leader of Othar Prime's orbital defense, looked at the flickering screens in confusion. Sir, said a young officer, we're seeing shadows, large shapes. Not on radar, but something's there. Above us. Relvac frowned. How many? The officer stared at the screen. More than 20. Maybe 30. But no signatures. No energy spikes. No heat. There. Cold. He turned to face his crew. Send a probe. The probe launched into the upper atmosphere. It blinked for 2 seconds, then vanished. No signal. No debris. Nothing. Now the room was silent. Far below, Counselor Deaver stood on his palace balcony, looking up at the black sky. He saw no stars, just A wall of darkness hanging above the city. Then, without warning, the lights in the capital flickered. A soft hum filled the air. All screens turned on at once. City billboards, handheld devices, military monitors. A simple image appeared. A Terran warship. Sleek, black, silent. Behind it, more ships, lined in perfect formation, floating above the planet like a silent warning. No engines. No sound. No threat spoken. Just presence. Vior stepped back in fear. Then came a voice, not loud, not angry. Just calm. It echoed from the skies, from the screens, from every speaker on the planet. It was the voice of Elena Vasquez. This is not an attack. Not yet. Her voice was soft, firm. You mocked the people of Earth. You tried to humiliate us. And now. You will listen. Pause. We have learned your history. We know your games. But we are not here to play them. One of the Athari generals fell to his knees. They're inside our systems, he whispered. They can control everything. Above the planet, the Terran fleet did nothing. No weapons, no movement. Just a quiet wall of judgment. Alana's voice spoke again. Terrans do not strike first. But we do not forget. You erased us with words. Now we erase. The sky. Counselor Deaver shouted. This is terrorism. They're bluffing. But no one stood with him. Even his guards stepped back. The voice ended. The screens went black. The Terran ships remained. Watching. Waiting. Then something terrifying happened. The main city lights returned, but half the buildings were gone. Cleanly removed. No rubble. No fire. Just empty ground. Hospitals, command centers, research labs, all missing. As if someone had carefully lifted them away. The message was clear. We know your world. We know your heart. And we can take it apart. Piece by piece. Deaver collapsed into his chair, trembling. For the first time in his life, he understood fear. And the galaxy, watching from afar, understood something else. Humanity wasn't just emotional. They were patient, and when they moved like shadows from a forgotten nightmare. Retaliation without sound. The Athari Republic had always believed in power through volume-loud speeches. Bright armies, grand parades. They thought fear came from noise. But now, the Terrans were teaching them something new. Something colder. Something worse. Silence. Across Athari space. Every military base experienced sudden blackouts, no alarms, no damage, just darkness. Communications between ships turned to static. Command centers received blank data feeds. Entire units simply vanished. From the grid. No explosions. No debris. Just empty signals. Counselor Deaver gathered his remaining generals in the underground command chamber beneath his palace. Tell me this isn't real, he whispered, but none of them spoke. Instead, a large screen on the far wall flickered. On its own. A silent video played. It showed Door standing proudly in the Galactic Council chamber, laughing. Then it cut to clips of Athari citizens, panicking, fleeing, crying. Then to the black Terran ships above the capital. Then to Earth. Not a battlefield. Not a war zone, just children playing in green fields. Teachers writing in classrooms. A grandmother watering her plants. Earth was peaceful. And that made it even more terrifying, because peaceful people who can do this are not weak. They're choosing restraint. Then the video ended. One final line appeared. We are what you made us. Deaver stood frozen. The air in the room felt heavy. Then one of the generals stammered, Sir, the Terrans. They're releasing something. Outside, high above the atmosphere, the Terran fleet launched a wave of thousands of tiny drones, silent, silver, and shaped like needles. They descended like falling snow, barely visible against the night sky. But they didn't strike. Instead, they hovered over key locations, military headquarters, weapon factories, energy reactors. The drones didn't attack. They deactivated everything. Power grids shut down. Defense. Shields dropped. Missile silos locked permanently. Dot ships became cold metal statues in orbit. The entire Athari military machine neutralized, without firing a single shot. One drone landed softly on Diver's palace window. A blinking light pulsed. Once, then vanished. It left behind only a small hologram device. Shaking, Diver approached it. He pressed the button. Ambassador Elena Vasquez appeared, life-sized and calm. She spoke slowly. We asked for respect. You answered with mockery. We offered peace. You chose pride. We gave warning. You called it weakness. Her eyes looked straight through him. Now you understand. Diver dropped the device. A new alert blared across the command. Center. Not an attack. A transmission. From Earth. One line. We are done showing you. And then the Terran ships disappeared. Not jumped to hyperspace. Not fled. Just vanished. As if the sky had swallowed them whole. Diver looked at the blank sky and realized something no Athari had ever dared to say aloud. Humanity had become the thing they all feared, not because of how they fought, but because of how little they needed to fight. To win. The history, they ignored the Galactic Council, held an emergency session. Counselor. Diver did not attend. He was no longer welcome. The chamber lights were dimmer now, the air heavy with fear. No one spoke of war anymore. No one laughed. At Earth. Instead, all eyes were on a floating projection sent directly from the Terran embassy. It was not a threat. It was a lesson. Holographic archive began to play. There was no narrator, only images. And silence. It began with Earth. Millions of years ago, lush jungles, storms, wild animals. Then came early humans, small, barefoot, and hunted. Yet they built fire. Then tools. Then weapons. Cities. But the images didn't stop at beauty. They showed war. Not once, many times. Stone, iron, gunpowder, missiles, drones. Humans fought. Each other for land, for power, for survival. They burned, rebuilt, and burned again. Nuclear explosions lit the skies. Then came stillness. Rebuilding. Hands reaching out. People helping strangers. Nations rising from dust. Then space. Satellites. Shuttles. Mars landers. Deep probes. They went from ashes to orbit in just decades. From hate to hope. From ruin to reason. The aliens watching sat in stunned silence. They had mocked humans for their emotions, for crying, for protecting the weak, for mourning the dead. Now they saw the truth. Those emotions had saved them. Again and again. Not weakness resistance, not fear memory. And at the center of it all, one repeated image. Humans burying their dead, then planting. Flowers. Again and again. A final message appeared in simple galactic standard. We survived our own worst. We remember pain. We respect it. Do you? Many council members looked away. Some covered their faces. Others simply sat in shame. Camera feed switched one last time. It showed Earth. Now, a single Terran child sitting in a park under the sun, reading a book. The child looked up, smiled into the camera, and waved. The feed ended. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked into the chamber. She didn't speak at first. She simply placed a small stone on the council table. This, she said, was taken from the ruins of a city we destroyed and rebuilt. It reminds us of who we were. She looked at the other species, each one silent. You asked what we offer the galaxy, Elena said. We offer the truth. and the will to survive it. She turned to leave. One counselor, an insectoid from the Jorax Combine, stood and bowed deeply. Then another followed Dot, then another. But not Deaver. He watched from a distant prison moon, alone in a cold stone cell, replaying the hologram over and over. For the first time, he understood what he had mocked Dot, not just Earth, but pain that had shaped gods from dust. Asterisk. The fall of the mocking voice, the prison moon was cold. No guards, no noise, no sunlight. Counselor Deaver sat alone in a gray stone chamber, wrapped in silence. He no longer wore golden armor, only plain robes. His horns, once polished, were dull now. His world had fallen. Athar Prime had turned on him. After the Terran fleet disappeared, protests erupted in the capital. Citizens demanded answers. His lies were exposed. His pride had brought them all to the edge of ruin. They voted. Not for war, for his exile. And now he was forgotten. The humans hadn't forgotten him. One night, without warning, a soft hum filled the air inside his cell. He looked up. There was no door. Yet someone had entered. A woman in black. Calm. Unarmed. Human. Elena Vasquez. She stood across from him, looking at the once great counselor. She didn't smile. She didn't scowl. Her face held no hate, only purpose. You? Deaver whispered, his voice dry. Elena nodded once. We found your moon. You came to kill me? No, she said. We don't need to. He swallowed hard. Then, why are you here? She walked slowly around the room, her voice steady. Because you stood before the galaxy and laughed at us. You called us children. You called our pain weakness. You thought fear kept us quiet. She stopped and looked him in the eyes. But it wasn't fear. It was mercy. Deaver shook his head. You want me to beg? No, she said. You already have. She placed a small device on the stone floor. It lit up, projecting a 3D image of Earth's orbit. Dozens of black Terran ships floated above it, like silent guardians. Then the image zoomed out. It showed Athar Prime, also now under watch. Terran fleets had returned. Quietly. Silently. With complete control of both systems. This is not war, Elena said. This is memory. He blinked. Memory? She nodded. You will stay here, alone, not as a prisoner of war, not as punishment. You will remain here. As a lesson, for all who believe words are harmless. She tapped the device. Red circle appeared around his cell on the map. Then a line of glowing words. The mocking voice lives here. It would be broadcast across every system. Forever. A living reminder. Deaver tried to stand, but his knees buckled. You? You won't. Even kill me? No, Elena said, turning to leave. We don't destroy people for their words. But we do remember them. And we make sure others do too. She paused at the exit. For a species you called weak, we sure left a mark. Then she vanished, leaving the cell dark once again. But now, across the galaxy, monuments were being built. Not of war, but of restraint. Terran stone carved with words from Earth's history, quotes about mercy, silence, survival, and pain. Not a single Terran had fired a weapon, but everyone had heard the message. Don't ever mistake humanities. Silence for weakness. Asterisk. What the galaxy learned that day, the stars didn't look different. But everything had changed. Across 1,000 worlds, in every language, one message had spread. Earth remembers. Children on distant planets now studied Terran history in schools. Leaders spoke carefully when mentioning humanity. Military commanders reviewed the footage of Athar Prime, not of explosions, but of systems quietly shutting down, of a species that showed no anger, No panic. Just precision. Just patience. Just control. And that scared them more than any weapon ever could. On a lush colony world called Velari 3, a young alien girl stood before a small monument. It was made of black earth stone, smooth and cool to the touch. The words carved into it were simple. Mercy is not silence. Mercy is choice. Terran proverb beside it, her teacher explained. Many years ago, a council leader laughed at humans. He thought they were soft. He thought they would break. The girl frowned. What did they do? The teacher smiled softly. They didn't break. They reminded the galaxy who they were. Back at the Galactic Council, Ambassador Elena Vasquez entered the chamber. This time, no one mocked her. No one looked away. They stood as she passed. A symbol had been added to the council's banners, a small blue and white planet. Earth. Not as a warning. As a balance, because the galaxy finally understood. Humanity wasn't the strongest. Or the fastest, but they had something the others had forgotten: the ability to survive ruin and rebuild, the power to stay silent until it mattered, the wisdom to hold back, even when they didn't have to, and that made them dangerous. And sacred. And needed. Later, in a quiet Terran garden beneath a starlit dome, Elena sat alone. She watched Terran children laugh, run, and chase one another between trees. Birds sang. Above. Her aide approached. Ambassador, messages are pouring in. Apologies, treaties, peace offers. Elena nodded. Let them come, she said. Should we respond? She looked up at the stars. We already did. A pause. Then she added quietly, the galaxy didn't fear us because we were powerful. They feared us because we chose not to be. Until it was time. From that day forward, a quiet rule spread across every species, every station, every moon. Never test the Terrans. Never push Earth too far. And if you ever hear silence, run. The galaxy had laughed at humanity once. They would never laugh again. Asterisk.